All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at some NBA drama, specifically some stuff that's happened since that whole Draymond Green Jordan Poole incident. You ready to go through this with me?
Oh yeah. It's it seems like the story just keeps going and going, even with Poole now on the Wizards.
Right. And speaking of that, we should probably start with that Macon Telegraph article about Draymond Green's apology to Poole on social media. What really gets me about it is the timing. This happened right after the Warriors traded Poole,
Yeah.
and they haven't really been doing too hot this season. It almost feels like he's thinking, man, what if I didn't do that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely interesting timing. I
Okay.
mean, especially because it was responding to a reporter talking about how Poole said he loved most of his former teammates,
Yeah.
which doesn't really sound like too much praise, but that was enough for Green to want to go and apologize publicly, and it got over 100,000 views in just 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot of people are paying attention to this apology even years after it actually happened.
Yeah. Years later. And after the Warriors have kind of been on a downswing,
Mhm.
it kind of makes you wonder, is this really a genuine apology? Or is it more of a, man, I really wish things had gone differently kind of thing?
It's uh it's tough to say, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the article even points out how some fans are saying it's too little too late now. They're even blaming Green for the Warriors' struggles this season, connecting the dots between the punch, the trade, and then how they've been doing since then. It's a simple narrative, but sports fans love a good simple
Oh,
narrative.
for sure. But some of the fans are way more forgiving about it.
Yeah.
Some are even saying that the Warriors should try to trade to get Poole back. It's pretty mixed reactions to this whole thing.
Yeah, it's interesting how this one incident still has people talking.
Yeah.
It goes to show how important Poole was to the team
Uh,
and how much his absence is noticeable, even after everything that went down. And I mean, you can't deny that he's been killing it over on the
Now,
Wizards.
speaking of the Wizards, that game was a wild ride. In the same game where Green is making this public apology, Stephen Curry gets injured.
Oh no, not his ankle again.
I know, right? And it happened after he blocked a shot by, wait for it, Jordan Poole.
Oh, wow.
I know. The irony is just too much there.
Yeah. You can't make this stuff up.
It's almost like some cosmic joke or something.
It really is. It's like this whole game was just a tiny version of the whole saga.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. It's like this whole game was just a tiny version of the whole saga.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you got to remember, too, that Curry has had some ankle problems in the past.
Hmm.
That Fadeaway World article really made it sound like this injury could be a real problem for the Warriors.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They said that high ankle sprains, like the one Curry seems to have gotten, usually take like 4 to 6 weeks to heal. But Curry's had ankle problems before, so it might be even worse than that. Remember back in 2017 when he hurt his ankle?
Oh, yeah.
He missed a ton of games. And it took him a while to really get back to where he was.
Right. This could be a huge problem for the Warriors, especially with how much they've been struggling lately. They were already having some issues on defense, and that was with Green still playing.
And speaking of Green, he hurt his calf in the game, too. So now they're looking at potentially being down two of their best players. I mean, Fadeaway World even said that it's not looking good for the Warriors to be able to turn things around. The West is just so competitive this year. Every game matters.
Yeah, it's rough. And then on top of all that, the article talked about how well Poole's been playing for the Wizards. He scored 38 points against his old team.
Ouch.
I know, right? That's got to hurt a bit.
Yeah,
You trade a player, then he comes back and just dominates like that.
for sure. It makes you think that maybe the Warriors are regretting that trade.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to think that. But the article said that the Warriors probably had their reasons for doing it. They probably thought about the salary cap and how things would work in the locker room and stuff like that when they made that decision.
Yeah, Poole might be doing great on his own, but that doesn't always mean the team will do great. There's a lot more to it than just that.
Right. You can't just look at one player and know how the whole team will do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like one of those classic sports stories. Individual talent versus how the team works together, past decisions coming back to bite you,
Mm-hmm.
and then injuries just happening out of nowhere. All that stuff happening in one game. It's just more than a game at that point.
Right. This game against the Wizards really does feel like a turning point in all these stories. Green's apology, Curry's injury that might have been caused by Poole, and Poole just going off against his old team. It's all connected.
Yeah, that's wild. So where do we even go from here? Will Green's apology actually lead to them patching things up? Do you think they'll do it publicly or keep it private?
Who knows?
And can the Warriors even come back from these injuries and make it to the playoffs? And is Poole just going to keep playing like this in Washington, making the Warriors regret that trade even more?
I mean, These are the questions that are going to keep us all watching, you know? What are the Warriors going to do to make up for the injuries? Will Poole's performance make the Warriors regret the trade even more, adding to the whole narrative that they're falling apart? It's crazy.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like we're watching one of those sports movies play out in real life.
Yeah.
And we don't even know how it's going to end.
Exactly.
So what do you think is the biggest thing we can take away from all this?
I think it just reminds us that sports aren't just about who wins and loses, you know? It's about people and how they interact with each other. All the complicated stuff and all the things that happen that nobody expects. This game with all these different stories happening at the same time really shows that.
Totally. You said it perfectly. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everybody. This whole thing is far from over, and we can't wait to see what happens next. Keep an eye out for what happens. And be sure to come back next time for another deep dive into some new and interesting stuff.
Sheesh.